Alrighty folks, here we go. I am going to start lashing the stringers to the bow and the keel stems. So I've already drilled my holes, I've already sealed everything up, and while I was doing that I clamped everything together, kind of traced out where everything needs to go. It's not something you need to do unless you plan on putting something like this on it. You could just do your wood oil. You don't need to be this technical about it. I just did it for a little extra security. Anywho, so right now I've drilled some holes. I have one hole here, one hole there, and one hole there. This is for the chines. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 holes here. I drilled this hole initially as like a stabilizer string I was going to wrap around here, but I don't think I will because I have to notch this out for the end plate. So once I lash all this together up here, I'll then swing it back to these two holes here because I can't get to the lashing to tie it off and to cinch it off and knot. If I were to do it up here, chances are it would just be an aesthetic eyesore, as there would be a big knot here and it will probably show through the skin. It will not mess anything up as this won't go under the water unless I'm like riding waves. It's negligible at most. Probably won't make a difference whatsoever to tracking or anything like that. So anywho, I'm gonna cinch it off back here. I'm gonna lash these together pretty tight. That'll also help it to maintain that nice concave shape, like a superiorly sharpened knife. And I'll basically do the same thing for this as well. So I can't really tie it off right here, so I'm just gonna cinch it off back here, which is why I drilled that hole. Just wrap it around a few times and then cinch it off, and then we'll move to the back and do the same thing back there. Alrighty, let's get started. What you'll need, definitely want to get your dowel here because you are going to be really pulling these tight. You're going to want a needle because these are really thin and chances are it may move around. You're not going to be able just to push your straightened thread through. So grab a needle. Hopefully you have more than one. If you don't, that's fine. If you've decided to seal this off, it's going to get messy unless you've let it cure, which I wouldn't recommend doing that because you want it to cure while it's in its lashed, I guess, joint form. That way it'll form a structural bond with how the lashing brings it together rather than how the tension from the clamps bring it together, because that would basically just be inaccurate. Once you lash everything together, you take the clamps off, it will move, and that's when you want it to cure to your stems. So as you're doing all this, you also want to make sure your keel and bow stems are straight. There was a little bit of curvature in the stem in the back and I had to move it all around. That's where these kind of come in. If you can push them through, I would suggest doing so. These are just 1/8 dowels. I used a 1/8 drill bit to drill the holes, which is what you're supposed to use, and then I just pushed a 1/8 dowel in through it. So that's the hole that I'm going to be using to lash everything together. Alright, so I mean it looks great on this end. We won't worry about the stern yet. So the bow looks straight, perfect. Basically I'm just using it to line up, I'm lining it up with the keel that I can see through the forms, and I am looking for any type of variation, difference in height between my gunnels and whatnot. Right now it looks good. If you see any variation, you need to correct it before you lash it all together. So you can just, if you see variation, you need to change hole orientation. I would just drill new holes. Don't try to fix it by drilling through the hole, widening it, or anything like that. All right, so I'm going to start lashing together. I can't remember the recommended length of cord for this. Since I did 2 for this down here and I had quite a bit of extra, I'm going to assume that that would be pretty close to what I am going to need, but because there is such a large gap from here to here, I'm going to do this all in the same line. so that I can cinch that line off. Since there's such a big gap from here to here, I'm going to do 3 arms lengths. And you know, if that's not enough, that's not enough. I'll do it again with more. Here we go. 1, 2, and 3. About 6 feet of cord is what you need. So because I can't knot anything off right here, actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tie it off on these ones here, and then I will just feed it up to that one, that way. So we are going to start with, you guessed it, a stopper knot. And we need to get our scissors over here so we can cut this. So, cutting implement as well. Cut off the tail. Okay, because of the sealant that I have on here, this is not cured, and like I said in my other video, this is like tar. I don't want to get it on my clothing. It will not come off. I got a tiny little dot on my thermal sweater, and it's there forever now. I'm going to kind of come up from the bottom because I have sealant on the top here. So pull our stopper knot through, pull this through, or push it through, and boop, there we go. And now we're going to tie our overhand knot. Hopefully you can see this. If you can't see this, that's fine. By now you should know how to tie these knots. And alright, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to come up through this bottom hole right here because well, because I want to, because it'll hide this line better. It's not necessarily, you don't need to see it. It doesn't provide any structural integrity. It's just where I've tied the knot off. However, that said, you do want to pull this tight so that there's no slack in it. And then I'm going to remove this one here. Shoot, if I can. Yeah, there we go. I'm just going to remove this one too because I need to get through both those holes. So, take those out, throw them away. You know, it's not a necessary step for you guys to go through, so if you don't want to do it, you don't need to put the dowels through, but just know that you may have trouble finding your hole later. Alright, so you're going to go up through the top hole right here, and now when you pull, you're always going to want to pull right away from your frame and pull tight. You'll see it move stuff around a little bit. And then you don't want, because of the way I drilled these holes here, they're almost level to each other. So what's going to happen is if I cross over right here and I pull, it's just going to bite into the wood and split the grain. You really should kind of stagger these holes if you drill 2 up here into your stringers. Stagger the holes so that they have to cross a bit of grain before the lashing goes through the other hole. That way, when you pull it tight, you know, it's better structurally. When it bites into the wood, it won't just rip right through it. It has to compete with grain. So, in that case, it is okay to crisscross here, since I did that. Because again, we're not tying anything off. Right here, we're tying it off back here. So, it's okay. And keep that tight, keep the tension on. Now we'll go up here. And again, it's not important that you keep the tension on here. It's just good practice. Because you don't want this to get loose, and the more you wrap, the harder it will be to get your lines that weren't tightened properly to tighten, because they'll just be too far back in the process It'll cinch down everywhere else, but not, you know, not there. Right. So I got one crisscross on this side, and here comes the next crisscross on this side. And then, like I said, because I'm not tying anything off here, I'm going to crisscross here. This will just create the best structure so that it doesn't tear apart these thin cuts that I've made for the bevel. It'll hold the wood much better to these stems. Again, pull tight, pull away from your stem, putting opposite pressure on there. Those jerky movements are just from the my gloves aren't gripping this very well. Pull that tight. And you will hear the wood kind of creak, or like hear a tearing sound. You know, that is normal. Don't be too alarmed. It is really going to bite into your wood right here, depending on how you've done this. Because my bevels are bevel angles are fairly exaggerated, it will bite in a lot more for me. And so you might want, but yeah, it just depends on how you put everything all together. So I'm just pushing down on the cord so that it doesn't feed back through and kind of unravel, keeping the tension. So you hear that sound? That's it biting into the wood. Alright, and now we've got a crisscross. Crisscross, and then we go down and through. I'm just going to pull it on this side because I have better eyes on this side. I can see what's going on. Again, you don't want to pull, you know, super hard, because you do have, you know, it's going into the wood. You don't want it to just rip right through. It's just supposed to be holding this together. As well, sometimes you might want to place your holes a little higher. The reason why I did it is because these are laminated to this. I didn't want this to break off, so that's why I did it down here. This is the gunnel, this is the riser. Alright, here we go. Now crisscross on this side. Straight up and down on this side. Just gonna do the same. 3, 3, 3, 3. And then I'll show you how to hide it when we go back to these two holes. Alright, so I have 3, 3, and 3. I got one more that I need to go through on down here, which is good. That's the hole I kind of wanted to go through in the end. And then I will go up through here, and that will tighten this line all the way behind here. What you could do is go around and wrap it behind and then go this way and tighten it. The reason why I'm not going to do that is because I feel that that might create friction as this joint wiggles, and it might eventually just tear through that. So I thought that might have been like a good idea at first, but the more I think about it, the worse it sounds. So I'd highly recommend against it, I guess. Alrighty. You know what? I might not have enough line. I don't think I have enough to go through this that many times. So what I'll do is go through it as many times as I can. I don't need my needle anymore. So that'll give me a little bit more line to work with. I think I'll just go through these 2 times, and then I'll cinch this off and I'll lash it again. Alright, so that's done. Technically I could take this off, but like I said, not enough lashings right here for me. So we're going to do this again. We're going to go with 2, between 1 and 2 arms lengths. I suggest to do the full 2. Just because that is a wide gap right there. Tie your stopper knot. Cut off your tail, and then I'm going to do it on this side this time because I did it on the other side the other way. Oh, if I can get it through the hole. Okay. We'll go in the long way. Go in this way so I don't get that sealant all over it. Cannot see it. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, here we go. And you tie your overhand knot in here, just like every other lashing. Alrighty, that is in there. Bam. Alright, so we're just going to go through this, the original, 3 times as planned. I know there's already 2 lines going through it. Technically only 1.5. But we want the 3 lines in here. We want a good, strong, solid lashing regardless of how many times we've already went through because... Yes, those are moving because as I'm cinching this down, I'm pulling it closer, which is a good sign. It means that this is tight enough and perfect. Because this is super messy, I'm just gonna get rid of that extra. I really don't need to be touching as much of this as possible because it's, like I said, never come out of your clothes. 2 and 3. Dun, 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 and pull that tight. And now we can do our stopper knot. Right on! Alright, that is done. Snip that off. And take that out. That was a good sign. That came out nice and easily. Look at that. That didn't even move. And let's pray. Hey, 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 hey. Sweet. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing down here as we did to all this. What I did 1, 2, 3. This one is not as big. This part, not as much cord will be used. I'm still going to do about 3.5, because I probably could have gotten that done with 3.5. Oh, well, that goes down there now. Alright, and so I'm going to tie this stopper knot. And I'm going to cut off the tail. Alright, and so the way I'm going to do this is shove this through here. Okay. Get that. Alright, through the hole there. Actually, I guess I'll do it over here so you guys can see. Alright. Come on. Alright, so tie our overhand nut. Just slip that down right there. And just kind of. The other problem with having this much line is you tend to step on it, so just be careful. Alright, and then pull that down so it cinches down to your stopper knot. And how I'm going to do this is basically, well, since that wants to be up there, I guess I'll just go over first. No reason to move that line down. I actually don't like that placement. I don't like it at all. Because I want this line to kind of stabilize this and hold that up a little bit. Oh my goodness, wow. Silly me. I totally forgot. I gotta put it up through these. So it's fine where it is. And then you'll just throw it through this hole here. Get that on through. Make sure it goes through. And I mean, if you want to use needle nose pliers here, that might be a good tool to have on hand. Also making sure that this doesn't get stuck in your camera tripod more than once. And then so we're going to go back through this hole right here now because we're done up in the front. That way we can lash it off and tie it off, and I will show you how to do this. Alright, there we go. Now this you're going to want to pull fairly tight because you're going to want to keep that kind of bend in it. But it's a fairly simple one. You only have to go through one hole and you pull it tight. And you just keep doing this. what I'm going to do is thread this down through here and here, and I'm going to lash that off right there. Actually, I'm going to do it on this side first, so I'm going to do 2 of them. I'll do it on this side. Reason being is it's not going to be a very strong or a very tight one because I've done these so tight. I don't want to break it, so I'm just going to cinch that down, and that's pretty much as far as that's going to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back through here, and then this one I won't have to tie a stopper knot on because I'm going to cinch it on the other side again. So I'm just going to go through 3 times right here. Keep that tension on there nice and good. Get that real good down in there. Alright, that's nice and cinched up. Now I'm going to come over to this side and do the same thing right there. Again, I got to be careful here because I really don't want to break this. And I am cinching this down super tight. Like way more tight than is need be, but I don't really have a choice. It's just how this one's going to work. 1, 2. I'm going to put a minor little cinching knot down in there so that it won't unravel or backtrack too much or at all. I can't really, basically the line's as cinched down as it's going to get, so I'm just going to run that through there one time. This is the last time I need to go through there. I can put the 3 loops through here. Alright, so we are done with the bow. Alrighty, so I'll show you this real quick. This is just a little thing that I did because I wasn't convinced that would, if I put the stopper knot in there, I wasn't sure that would actually work. I figured that would probably come unraveled, so I still cinched it down, did everything but the stopper knot, same as over here, and then the stopper knot is just cinched up here. So this is what this looks like with the 2 cinches in it. There's the first one, there's the second one, and then the third one was just from this up here. If you're able to get those, that line right there to bite down better and cinch up like that, then you don't need to go up here. Otherwise, I would recommend tying this off somewhere else.